Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I am Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and today and all week long we have had Anthony Lambatos, one of our favorite guests here. He is our hospitality guru. We're excited to have him, and we've touched on restaurants, we've touched on hotels, we talked about the beginning of, the basics, the education and the hospitality. So where are you taking us next on this journey?
Oh, yes. It's it has been an awesome week, and it's so great to shine a light on the hospitality industry in Colorado. I think it's a really important sector of our economy, and it's actually the fifth largest sector by employment here in Colorado.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that work in hospitality, and a lot of people that historically have worked in hospitality. I think it's half of all people at some point have worked in hospitality, which is kind of cool.
It is cool, but it should be 100%.
I agree.
In my opinion.
I agree. That appreciation that you have. Once you've worked in hospitality or been in a restaurant or a hotel or those scenarios, I think is extremely valuable experience. Where are we going today? Today, we're going to round out the week with somebody that I have a ton of respect for, and he is widely respected in the industry for not only the work that he's done, but his ability to collaborate and build relationships with everybody in the industry. So today we have Sidney Stoper here from JSAV, but he has a long and storied career in the hospitality industry and has also been the past chair of Meetings Industry Council of Colorado, MIC, and the past president of NACE, the National Association of Catering Executives. So Sidney, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah,
thank you.
welcome.
Yeah.
We're excited to jump in and round out the week, and with somebody that has had experience working in a number of different parts of the hospitality. I know you kind of came up through hotels. You're in AV now, but also being involved in those industry organizations. I think we're going to have a great conversation. You're going to have a ton to add from kind of a little bit different perspective.
So wrapping up this week is all on you. The stakes are very high.
Wow. Well, and I also want to just piggyback on what you said. It's like, if you are in the hospitality industry, you can do anything in this world. I just think that the service is so important, just that you learn in a restaurant or at the front desk of a hotel. You can take those skills and apply it anywhere in the hospital or in the industry.
So let's jump right in. Why did you pick hospitality? How'd you get into it?
So I stumbled into it. So I went to school at a small liberal arts college in New Mexico, and when I finished school, I studied psychology. I didn't really want to do anything after that so far. I stumbled into a hotel, and I started my hotel career 21 years ago in Santa Fe at the El Dorado Hotel, if you've been there before, and just started at the front desk and worked my way up to supervisor and then manager. And then 3 years later, I was ready to move. I grew up in Texas, and I didn't want to live in New Mexico anymore. It was kind of it's a small state. And so I discovered a job here. So I moved to Denver to run the front office at the Brown Palace.
Sight unseen, hadn't been here before, and you picked Denver. And how long ago was that?
It was in 2000.
2000, okay. So you've seen the evolution, too.
Absolutely.
So Brown Palace.
So I remember when the Brown Palace was one of 4, big hotel or luxury hotels, and now there's a lot more. So
right.
Absolutely.
Right. So Brown Palace, then, talk about your career path from there.
So I spent about 3.5 years running the front desk, the concierge, the bellman, the night audits, the hotel operators, and I started to get bored, and I was like, what am I going to do next? And I went up to the director of catering at the time, and I said, please take a chance on me. I know nothing about food and beverage. I know nothing about catering, but I'm a quick learner. And so after that, I became a conference services manager. And then 6 months later, they gave me the job as catering sales. And so I learned catering in December, which is what we call holiday party hell.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I can learn it, I can learn anytime. And so I spent another 3 years at the Brown Palace. And then the day after, right after my biggest event during the DNC in 2008, I gave my resignation, and I went over to the Magnolia, and I was their director of catering and conference services for 3 years. And then after that, I got bored again, and
sensing a theme here, Sidney.
And I got anxious and wanting to do something else. And the company that I used for AV at the time was JSAV at the Magnolia. They called me and said, we're looking for someone to help with sales. And I know you know nothing about audiovisual, but you have the hotel background that we want. hospitality.
Yeah.
And that was a little over 6 years ago. So I've been with JSAV ever since.
And talk a little bit about what JSAV does and the services you offer for those that aren't familiar with the event industry per se.
Absolutely. So we are a corporate audiovisual staging company. So we can do anything from providing a screen and projector, sound system in a backyard for a birthday party. We can do a sound system. We're in hotels, we're in the convention center. We can do pretty much anything where you need to hear and see something, we can do it.
So. All those things that people kind of take for granted, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's one of the fascinating things I think about your industry, that when it doesn't work, that's when people notice it.
Exactly. And my boss has a favorite saying that says, we're the last thing that people think about, and then the first thing that people will complain about if something goes wrong. So,
yes, it's a lot of pressure on that. So being in Colorado since 2000, talk a little bit about the industry now, where it's at, the hospitality industry here in Colorado, and how it's evolved since you arrived here.
Sure, absolutely. I think that the biggest thing that I've seen is that there are more associations, so that everybody's wanting to learn, to grow their skill set, to learn, to be educated, to network, to find business referrals and development. So I think that when I first moved here, there were maybe just a small handful of associations. So the one that's now called ILEA, which is the International Live Events Association, formerly ISIS, and we can understand why they changed the name.
Weird.
The terrorist group wouldn't budge on that.
So they were the strong association back, when I first started. And then we in 2008 decided to start a chapter of NACE, the National Association for Catering and Events. And so we started that in 2008, and then now just, there's WIPA, which is kind of focuses on more on wedding planners, and then there's the Wedding Network, and I'm sure there's some others that I can't even think of. So I just see that there's a little bit more competition among the associations. I think that people are, and I think also that there's a lot of up and coming people. So I mean, you and I've been around for a while, but there's a lot of people that have been that I go to these association events and I get to meet someone new. So that means that people are still interested in hospitality and interested in growing their skill set and knowledge in the industry. I think that's one definitely big trend.
What do you think the biggest thing, event specific? What changes have you seen in the events that you've been part of?
I think that a lot of times people realize that it's you got to have a budget, and you got to and sometimes it takes money to make money. So I'm thinking kind of like fundraisers. It's gone are the days where you're just going to have just a lousy sound system and a screen. You're going to really want to put production, because I think that the audiences at some of these bigger events are going to say, well, hey, if the nonprofit or the association wants to put some effort into this, to their event, then maybe they're going to get more money. They're going to get more paddle raises. They're going to get more money from the live and silent auctions. I think that's one thing that comes to mind.
You're spot on with that, and I think part of it we've seen is the proliferation of organizations. I mean, there's so many great organizations and nonprofits out there that it's not enough to just be a great cause. I think, we have a soft spot and we work with a number of nonprofits, but the ones that understand that we are fighting for entertainment dollars, at the end of the day, ultimately do a lot better than those that are just putting out their hand saying, give us money.
Correct.
And so we see some of these fundraisers and these nonprofits that look at it and say, hey, if somebody's going to come spend their Saturday night with us at our event, our gala, our auction, they're choosing not to go to a sporting event.
It better be well worth their time.
Yeah, they're choosing not to go to the theater. They're choosing not to go out to a new restaurant. So the experience has to be great. And for us, we love being part of that because people are willing to do new things. And I'm sure it's impacted you on that same level.
Absolutely. I have an event that I do every year for a big hospital here, and every year we have to go back and say, all right, we did this, it was great, so what are we going to do to top that from year over year? So I have to put on my creative hat and collaborate with the other, like the decor company and the entertainment company, and say, what are we going to do that when these guests walk in the door, they get that wow factor. They're just looking at the room because it's so beautiful.
Sure. What are the changes that you see, coming in the future? What's coming next with events and hospitality in general?
Sure, and I'll be honest, I haven't really touched this just yet, but I definitely see augmented reality and virtual reality coming more into events. I think we see that at some of the bigger trade shows around the country, but maybe at a local level. I've went to one event where they had virtual reality as like just kind of for fun, but I really do see that coming into for events, because I think people want more experiential than just having a boring speaker on stage hitting their slide advancer.
Right.
So they want their audience to be captivated and to listen and to get something out of that.
So talk a little bit about what that could look like. I mean, how could AR and virtual reality be used at special events?
Sure. And I preface by saying I'm definitely not an expert, but what I envision is that people just, they put their VR goggles on, and while the speaker is on stage, he'll still be there, or she, and they'll be able to kind of direct the audience. But you put the goggles on, and all of a sudden you just get to kind of visualize whatever the message is. If it's So that's kind of where I'm seeing that coming. Absolutely.
Interesting.
And there's so many ways that I think it could be woven in to an event.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think a small scale would be like just at an exhibit booth at a trade show, but then eventually, and of course it's based on money and budget, but if you saw an audience with 1,000 people in a general session with those on, I think that would just be absolutely fascinating. And I see that one day.
To have that. Yeah, absolutely. And even the piece with your phone of being able to pull up something and take pictures that have other things in it. I think it's something that's coming, it's going to be really interesting to watch how it impacts our events in our industry.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I'm curious, what are some of the lessons that you feel like you've learned from being in hospitality?
Sure. I think the number one thing is, you got to do your dues. I tell people, because here in Colorado or in Denver, we're lucky that we have 3 schools that have hospitality programs. We have DU, Johnson and Wales around the corner, and then Metro State. And so when I've spoken to those students, I always say, you got to do your dues. You got to put your time in. And I'm sure you've said that before too. It's not like you can't think that if you have a degree in hospitality or event management, that means that you're going to get this director position. Great that you have that knowledge, but you have to have the experience. You've got to get your feet wet. You can't think that that's a task is beneath you.
Right.
And so when I'm around and I have my employees, I'm not a manager per se, but when I'm around my employees that we're setting up an event, I'm going to get my hands dirty. I'm going to set up as much as I can. Or when I was in catering and food and beverage, there's nothing wrong with me to go and drop tables and put out china, glass, and silver. I can do that. And I think that that's what I think people need to remember, is you got to start at the bottom. And you can move up fast. I moved up fast in this industry, but you got to do your time.
Your employees will also appreciate that.
Absolutely.
He knows what he's doing. He's been in this before. So when I come to him with a complaint about something, he actually gets it. Right?
I can empathize.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and we had Dr. Corson on yesterday from DU.
DU? Yeah, of course.
And so, he reiterated that same message of hard work more so than paying your time, but a similar mindset of I tell people it's going to be hard work, and be prepared for that it isn't just the show. There is a lot that goes into what we do.
And I tell people, I said hospitality, like a lot of us that are in hospitality, it's not there because we're there for the money. I mean, it's but it's there because we love it. We have a passion for that. And my second advice to people is, the minute that the passion runs out, then maybe it's time for you to find something else.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the passion, if you're not 100% invested in the company, you're not going to do yourself good, your clients good, or your company. So just say, either find that passion again or find something else.
Yes.
Because I think I was, back in my career, I was starting to burn out at the front desk. And I didn't want to do that to the guests and to the hotel, so I needed to find something that I could do. And then I did. I fell in love with doing weddings. I don't have that passion anymore, so now I don't do weddings. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So. That ran its course.
I did, yeah. Can you imagine? It's a whole nother podcast.
Oh, right. So, we've met through industry organizations, and you've been part of so many of them. You touched on the fact of now we have a lot more different organizations, but talk about some of the organizations you've been part of and why you chose to get involved with them.
Sure. So my first ever event was for ILEA, and it was I was back in 2007, and our friend Angela Coleman, that used to be in the, well, she's still in the event industry. She had a really awesome ILEA event, and it was a wedding showcase, which was last night, and I missed it last night. But it used to be the event of the industry, and people would show up and they would have table competitions, and just have they would just go all out. That was my first, and I got really inspired. And then we had, for a short time before NACE, we had the Colorado Catering Sales Organization, something like that, and then that eventually evolved into NACE. And so I helped start that chapter back in 2007. And I think the reason why I wanted to do that was because I was still new at the time in the industry, or in catering. I wanted to learn. I wanted to bring in speakers, and it wasn't just about food and beverage. It could have been about linens. It could have been about, the audiovisual side. It could have been about the planners, or it could just be about, personal growth. And I wanted to find a place where we could all come together, we could network, we could do referrals, business development, and then we could learn something. So that's always been important to me. My third advice: join an association. I think that's really important, especially for people new in the industry. And then that way, and then just my involvement, becoming on the board, becoming president, and then eventually when NACE, I got NACE into the MIC, you mentioned, the Meetings Industry Council of Colorado, and that's 13 industry associations.
Wow.
All under MIC.
All under MIC, and we do a big trade show in every March, and then we put together a luncheon where last year we gave $30,000 to the Food Bank of the Rockies. So that's kind of our community project. So
who caters your catering event?
For MIC, we're at the convention center, so we use the center plate. And then for Serving Up Hope, the luncheon, we have volunteers. So we have restaurants and hotels that come to. It's a great event. Have you been to it? It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
I was
that's
just
okay.
Curious, that kind of meta. Who caters the caterer?
Exactly.
Are they getting judged?
And talk about pressure when you do industry events. It's a triple the pressure of making sure everything's flawless.
Imagine.
But I just think that the industry association it's so important for me. I learned a lot about myself becoming the president and getting on boards, and I serve on a national committee as well. I love it. So I just always say, please get involved. Don't just join an association and be done with it. Get involved. Get on a committee, because I promise you, the more you put into it, the more you'll get out. I know that's a cliche, but it absolutely works.
It works. Like you said, it matters, and that's why that's why you say it. I couldn't agree more that being in those leadership positions, all of a sudden the relationships that you're building aren't just, hey, good to see you. It's now we're building a connection, and we're working together. And we're side by side working on something, and all of a sudden trust is being built.
Absolutely.
And when trust is built, I think that's when referrals can really start to happen. And I know for you, the network you've built from these organizations has been tremendous and had a huge impact on your business and you personally.
When I left catering to go to AV, my NACE family was the first to support me, and they were all of a sudden giving me opportunities for business.
Exactly, because they trusted you, and they knew if you were going to this company that you were going to put your name behind it.
Precisely,
it was going to be great, and they were going to be taken care of in the same way that they had been taken care of for many years.
Exactly,
and that's part of hospitality, and why I'm so happy that you're joining today, because I think you really embody that piece of taking care of people and giving them that comfort and satisfaction that you're going to take care of them.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
You've earned it. Talk a little bit about the networking is good, the education, but talk a little bit more about the collaboration that happens when you start to build those relationships.
Sure. I think that in this industry, and I think the other change that I've seen is there's more competition. You know it just as well as I do. Back in the day, there were maybe 5 catering companies. Now there's 10. Maybe there's 15.
Right.
Maybe there's 5 more that are up and coming that we don't even know about. Same thing with audiovisual. So I think that and I also am a big proponent that we have to know our competition. It's friendly competition. I always want to know what's going on in their market, if there's any change in employees or what have you. Just especially in the hotel side, we always knew what was going on. I think that with the collaboration, it's being able to say, okay, well, if Footers and J&S are at Mile High Station, it's going to be a good event because we're both reputable. We both know what we're doing. We know that venue inside and out, or any other venue. I think there's a trust. I think also, like, I can cross promote. So if a client calls me and they're talking about their audiovisual, and I said, well, have you chosen your caterer? No, not yet. Well, let me just tell you some of my favorite caterers. And I give a list. I'm not going to say one, because I think that, and I'm sure you agree, there's a company for everybody. We don't want every piece of business.
Yep.
We want the best business.
Yeah.
And so I can just say, and I think that people appreciate a referral or recommendation. This person comes, they live in LA, he doesn't know. I can say, here's 4 catering companies, call them. You'll be in awesome hands. And I did that.
Touching on what you said about working together on events, I mean, people don't see all of the things that
The
go
blood, sweat,
into
and tears?
making an event happen.
They're not supposed to.
They show up and they have no idea what it took to get that plate of food in front of them, or the linen on the tablecloth, or the centerpiece. And there's a lot of people that have to work together.
Absolutely.
And so when we have those relationships of understanding and trust, it's much more supportive.
It is, and I think the most thing that I need to remind sometimes my team, I'll be honest, is it's not about the AV. It's not about catering. It's not about the entertainment.
Yes.
It's not about the florals or the linens. It's about the overall event.
Right.
And so what we do is we come together to make this wedding couple or the client or whomever, the planner, whatever, whomever, feel like, and I say my word is, I'm here to make you look like a rock star to your boss. And I've used that many times. And it's true. It's because I hate it when it's all about this, or we have to move the stage because we need more tables, but we need to have the AV, and I'm sure you've seen that before, or the flowers, or don't work with the food. It's all about the overall event. If we can kind of check our egos at the door and go in there with just a 100%, it's all about the event, then that's, to me, is a successful collaboration.
And I think people feel that. We have a good example of this working with an AV company that I won't name, but our team goes in, sets all the tables in place, does the preset. We're good. Well, now they got to get out a lift to modify some things and hang some trussing, and really they missed their window. They were supposed to be in earlier. Whatever happened, they got delayed, so they came in later. They moved all the tables out of the way so they could do their job, and then just left. So here we've got to come back in and reset, 15 tables that have been moved out of the way, and they had no regard for the fact that somebody had to do that work in the first place, and somebody had to redo that. And that's something that at the end of the day, the guests might not see that, but from our perspective, we want to work with vendors.
Well, you'll remember who you refer to or who not to refer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We want to work with vendors that support each other. And if there's things that you need from the AV standpoint, or that somebody needs from the auctioneer, or let's figure out all how to work together. So part of I think the partnership that we've established over time,
Absolutely.
and also just good business.
It's the communication too.
Yes.
It's if had somebody said, hey, by the way, let's not drop tables here because we need to fix something, then we would have said, hey, hold off on the tables.
Right.
And then you wouldn't have to do double work.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Quick question about, you've been in hospitality for so long. What if you weren't in hospitality? What would you be doing?
Ooh.
I don't know if I would be able to do something outside of hospitality. If I did,
in
I
your
would
blood.
Probably have withdrawal and have to go back.
You like the abuse too much.
I
then.
do. I think my next step is some more of a training and coaching. I want to go. Our company's growing. We're opening hotels left and right. I'd like to eventually move to the corporate office and put together trainings and help mentorship programs for some of these up and coming audiovisual.
Yeah, because JSAV has operations across the country.
Correct. We're headquartered in Dallas, since we've got a huge presence here. Texas, we're growing, continuously growing. So I want to help make sure that we still provide the service, that we don't forget that hospitality is the number one priority, and then the audiovisual, or whatever we do.
It's a piece of the whole puzzle that goes into making events fantastic.
Fantastic. Stay with us here on Connect and Collaborate at clbrt.com/live. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Alex Hopkins, once again your on-air producer. I have with me Anthony Lambatos with Footers Catering. He's our favorite hospitality guy. And,
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And we have Sidney Stoper with us. He's an account executive at JS Audiovisual, but he's done so much more in his career throughout hospitality. We're learning all about it. let's jump right in.
Yeah, so you mentioned hospitality kind of being in your blood a little bit, and I took the path of, growing up saying I'd never be in the business. I watched my dad do it and said, no, that's not for me. I got to do something else. But I think there's a lot to be said about how well you know it, and as you spend more and more time in it, I love your aspect of moving into that teaching and training. One of the things that, as you know, Sidney, at Footers, we have strived to create a great place to work. How do we make sure to create an environment where people can really thrive? So I always weave that into our shows and like to talk about what it takes to create a great place to work. So let's start on the unemployment side, because unemployment is at historically low levels here, and hospitality has really struggled to find that workforce, and there's been so many demands that have taken people out of hospitality. So talk a little bit about what JSAV has done to attract good people.
Well, the good news is we don't have a lot of turnover. So
that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Back in my hotel side, I was struggling to find good people. And I think my lesson learned was I'm not going to rush the hiring process. I'm going to take my time, because I don't want just a warm body. I want to find the right person, the right fit with the right culture that understands what we do. So that was back in when I was a hiring manager. I think here it's just we have to, and I attribute that to our general manager and because his culture is we have to have fun, and my culture is we have to have fun. I was at a hotel yesterday, and I just want it's hard work, it's long hours. Sometimes you don't get to eat when you want to. You got to stay alert to make sure you don't miss any cues. But we have to have fun, and I think that if you still kind of enforce having fun in an event, but also be professional and make sure that we take care of the guest or the client, it's a good balance. So
Sure.
that's my number one thing.
So let's dive into that. Talk a little bit about how you have fun. What are the fun things that go on at JSAV?
So I forgot to bring this out, but I went to the store the night before and I brought candy, and just a little chocolate will make the day go farther. So
Yes.
in my office, and I started this in my hotel, I always had a little, and I still do have a little candy dish, and I did that because I wanted people from all over the hotel to come and say hi to me. So it was that inviting, that's hospitality, and I still do that to this day. And it's just for someone to come and sit down and just to take a 5-second break or 2-minute. How's your day going? Here's some candy. So I think that
They know where to get their sugar
they
fix.
do know where to get their sugar, and if they get diabetes, I apologize. But I think that the next thing is just being able to have open communication, that when we're at show site, when we're getting ready doors, when we're about to or the entrance of the wedding couple, we're in places. But before that, we're still having fun. We're having conversations. I don't want it to be a dictatorship where and I don't want if someone needs help here, I'm going to help. And I was thinking about what you were saying earlier. When I was on the AV side, if I see that the catering, they're a little behind, I'm going to go out and say, hey, can I help you drop china glasses? I've done it before.
Right.
Because all about the event, not, oh, well, look at Footers running, or a company running around. You would never. But, and the same thing, if they see that we're struggling to get something help, I'm sure someone's come over from like another company and say, hey, do you need some help? I mean, it's just all about, again, that collaboration. But it's just, we don't want just a warm body. We want to find the right person.
Right.
And I think that's why we've been successful, because we have the right people in place. And if they're not the right fit, we're going to either groom them or we're going to have them maybe help them find something else. And I think that you and I both agree that I can train you how to get on the computer to type up a banquet event order.
Right.
Or an AV order. I can train you how to use the telephone system, but we can't train service.
Yes.
We can help, we can encourage, we can motivate, we can course correct. But I think in hospitality, we either have it or we don't. And I think the other thing is, I was thinking, is when we go to restaurants or a bar or a store, we also immediately recognize poor service. And I think that's what makes me eventually want to go into training. It's like, I don't ever want someone to think that we have poor service.
Right.
I don't want to go be like, oh my God, like those pet peeves that come out, at a hotel or restaurant. So I think that it's all about the service.
Yes, and you said it. I believe it too. That there's certain things we can train you how to do, and that short-term rushed hire is a jump to hire somebody who knows that stuff. Yeah. So you don't have to do the work of training it. But if they don't have the ability to empathize or talk to a client or engage with a guest. You're going to be replacing that person within the span of a month or 2 months.
And you and I both know turnover is so expensive to a company.
Oh, it's brutal.
It is.
And desperation hiring is one of the number one causes for high turnover. Yep. That somebody left, and we got to get somebody in here yesterday, and here's 3 people. Pick the best one, and it's like if they were all mediocre, you're just picking the least mediocre.
And I've made those mistakes.
Yes,
I've learned from that mistake.
Yeah.
We all have, and it comes back to bite you.
Yeah. And I'd rather work a double 20 days in a row until I get that right person trained than have that person just leave 2 weeks later.
Be patient putting it through. Talk a little bit about that, because at Footers we establish a process that people have to go through. We believe the same thing. Don't rush that hiring. Talk a little bit about that hiring process at JSAV.
I think that we obviously they need to have a little bit of a skill set in technical for the rental technicians or the show services, but a lot of it is just it's a lot of shadowing. It's a lot, or even for me when I first started, again I knew nothing or very very little about audiovisual. I went out with the guys. I said, I'm going to go I'm going to spend the day with you in the van. We're going to go around. I'm going to help you. I'm going to ask you lots of questions, because I'm not going to be able to sell the right way if I don't know what I'm selling. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was just learning about what we do. Yeah. For the guys, they have, they shadow, they're training. They have a little, time in the office before they go out, before they touch clients, because we don't want something to happen.
Right.
So, and then the other thing is if maybe there's a day that we don't have an event going on, or if it's a little slower, maybe a newer technician will work with a more seasoned technician to say, hey, you know what, I saw that digital board, that mixer. Can you give me a little bit of like some troubleshooting or some guidance on how to use this audio board or this projector or this,
And you set it up, and
because that way they can
practice.
Take that skill set, and for the next show that they'll remember some of the skills.
And that goes back to building that great place to work. When you do the training and invest in people and give them an opportunity to truly learn and grow, they're going to pay it back with extra effort and commitment and
I
time.
See it with the new employees. So that we had a guy start. He was transferred from another branch. And I saw the next to latest hire. He was the one training, and it was kind of interesting to hear him regurgitate what we had trained. So it works. So that there's a buddy system there.
I believe in that the best way to learn something is train somebody else how to do it. That when you have to think about how do I teach somebody else how to do this, all of a sudden you really have to understand how to do whatever it is you're going to be teaching.
And we have meetings, or either a stand-up or a meeting where we say, what doesn't work? And I always ask the question, what can I do better to help you with your job?
Yeah.
Is there something that you need from me? Is there a piece of paper or some information or a floor plan? What is it that I need to give you? Because I want your job to be easier. So I always ask that at every meeting.
Sure. What are some of the other things that you think are important to creating a great place to work?
I think appreciation. I think just recognizing or celebrating. So if it's a birthday, we'll do a card and some food. But I think anniversaries, I think that, again, my GM has been there for 19 years. My director of sales, I think 15. There's a lot of longevity in the company, even at the corporate office in Dallas. And I think it's important to recognize those anniversaries because, again, you could be there a year and then move on somewhere else. But for me, like 6 years, it's
a good chunk.
I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I think just being able to celebrate, remind that.
So how do you celebrate anniversaries at JSAV?
We have a little plaque, so that's definitely that's a little award. We put that in our employee newsletter, put it on social media. Because I'm not a director, but what I would do if I were was take that person out to lunch. Actually, they did that for me. They took me to they said pick what restaurant we want to go to.
What'd you pick?
I went to Garden Grace.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Good pick.
Yeah.
So just being able to do that, and I did that not for an anniversary, but for one of our project managers. I took him to lunch the other day. I said, look, I'm not charging this back to the company. I'm doing this because I want you to know how much I appreciate you because you do such an awesome job. And I can't do my job in sales without operations. And operations wouldn't have a job without sales. And that's like also a reminder, especially in you know, probably in your company too. It's like without the salespeople, you won't have an event. And without a, you know, so it's just
we rely
just
on
reminding people that it's all about teamwork. It's not about one department versus the other.
Well, and thank you for sharing some of these things because I think that's we get so caught up in having to be this huge recognition or this huge program or what if you do it for one person, you can't do it, you know, how do you do it for everybody? And it is those little things of that acknowledgement, taking somebody out to lunch, you know, just recognizing the fact, putting it in a newsletter and saying, hey, we're proud of this accomplishment.
I think one holiday season, out of my own pocket, I just little $25 Visa cards, but I gave them to the guys. I said, look, you know, I wish I could give you $1 million, but I can't. But here's just a little token of my and I think they appreciated that.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did because it showed you cared. Those are the things that move the needle a little bit and that really culture is built on because it's how your employees and your team are interacting with one another and supporting each other on a day-to-day basis that really makes a difference. On the flip side, you've worked in a few different places and been very familiar with a number of different companies.
Sure.
What are some of the mistakes you've seen companies make when they're trying to create a great place to work?
Well, on the flip side, I think training. So I think that sometimes, and I've again been guilty of it, we rush because we don't. As a when I was a manager at the hotel, I needed to get at my desk to do my job. So we just kind of rushed because so I could get back to my job, and I think that was a number one mistake is training, throwing people out to the wolves before they're ready.
Sure.
I think, I just think, or just forgetting that hospitality is the number one priority in our job.
Well, and you touched on training, and I want to expand on that a little bit because I think it is something that's important. And I loved what you were saying about, you hire somebody and they get to see all the aspects of the company. And for us, it's really important that we hire somebody and they see. We do some training in the kitchen. They spend a full day in our kitchen learning how things get produced and how the systems run and operate. They spend a whole day in the warehouse loading and unloading trucks and seeing how dishes get washed. And then they spend time on events. Even though, in their sales job, they interact with all those people, they're not going to be doing those things. But spending time training in those different areas builds that understanding for that job.
Sure.
Because we say that, everybody's job is equally important to making sure our events are successful, but everybody's job is different, and we have to respect that.
Exactly. And I'll take some of the guys and say, hey, I've if site visit. Why don't you come with me? And I'll either do that because I want them to see what I do. Right. But I also, and it's great to, if you're the client and I come up and there's a couple of people, well, great. That means that, they know and I have this person to help me with more of the technical that I may not have that answer right away. So it just kind of shows that that J&S cares,
right?
That we're gonna ask the right questions at the site visit.
And when that technical side of things comes in, they may find something that you might not see or you might not, and say, "Hey, what about this?" And all of a sudden, that power of two people working together helps to make that event successful.
Because if the tech guy was with me, I probably would have said, "Yeah, but let's hold off on putting the tables right there underneath the sound system because we're probably or the lights, because we'll probably need to focus those lights."
Yeah. You're saying, "Oh, yeah," the clients say, "Oh, we want to do this and we want to do that." Yep, we'll do that. And then you come back and you're like, "Here's what we're doing," and they're like, "Really, Sidney?"
Yeah. Sorry,
which just creates a mess because then you have to go back to the client and talk about why you can or what has to be modified in order to make their vision happen. Exactly. But having them right there, all of a sudden we can advance the conversation. So talk a little bit about the impact that AV has on an event. You made the comment about no one notices it and then it's the first thing people complain about. But talk about some of the things that people maybe don't necessarily aren't aware of that you help.
So I think that what I want I was sorry for stuttering here. It's so important to an event. So when I first take the call or have a conversation with a client, I ask the question, probably like you do, what's your vision? What are your hot buttons? What's the objective of the event? If it's just a big party and no one cares, then I'm going to probably sell or suggest items that I would do differently if this was about a presentation and you have a keynote or you have a dignitary coming in from another country. So I kind of take those factors and I say, and I will custom design, kind of like with catering. I mean, like back in hotels, you just give a menu packet. But for us, I don't have a menu packet. I don't have a price list, because I want to have a conversation so that I can custom design what I think you need or suggest for the show. So I think that just knowing that, like, we're in a ballroom, well, if it's an evening function, we probably need to have lights. And something as so silly as that, like, last night I did an event, I'm not going to say where, and I said, you're probably going to need lights because the sun sets and it might be darker. And they decided to forgo that. But I was like, I bet they're going to probably, the audience is going to probably say, yeah, I can't see the audience, the panel as well. So little stuff like that. Just being able to know, again, like just the technical, like if the keynote likes to have the lapel or lavalier microphone, just those little things, just being able to get the details to find out, to kind of, and what I do is when I see a show, I kind of visualize in my head what it looks like, and I suggest, like, well, let's do some uplighting, let's do some custom scenic design on your set, because it could be just like an elementary school fundraiser, but if I put, and I'm not, but if I just put something on the stage or add a little logo that we could have projected, that could make a world of difference to what the overall looks like.
Well, and I think that's the thing that people don't always see or understand about what an AV company can do. I mean, you talk about the lighting and how much of a difference that makes, but it's hard to conceptualize until you can see it.
Sure.
I get it now. Sure. That's what it means.
So what's nice is in our company, we have a whole department that can help with renderings. So I go to my render guy, say, all right, this is what I want. Put the company logo on the screens and email it to them and say, here, this is what I envision.
Cool.
So that way that gives a visual, because I'm a visual learner too, and I want to see what that looks like.
Have you launched into VR in terms of that, of people being able to see what the room will look like?
Pretty cool. So it was like this, we have this, I did it last year, it's this program where you basically take your mouse and then it literally walks you into the ballroom and you can kind of move around and see. So and I got the show.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be coming as well. We get a lot of brides that want to see, what are the tables going to look like? What's the room going to look like? And to be able to have some sort of way to do that.
Exactly.
And I think we're really close.
Yeah.
We work with a couple of vendors that, with taking that room diagram and all of a sudden just populating some colors and some chairs and different things, we're going to be really close to being able to create that experience for clients.
Absolutely.
Which I think is...
and it'll make the sale. It definitely will.
Yes.
Because you're giving that experience to that wedding couple.
That's all part of it. Talk about some of your favorite events that you've been a part of, not just from an AV standpoint. I mean, talk about how AV maybe played a part in that, but we get to see some really cool events. So I want to hear from you on some of the really cool stuff that you've gotten to do.
I'll tell you the two events that come to mind. The first one, I kind of talked about it earlier. So I do the Beaux-Arts Ball, which is the annual gala for National Jewish Health. And so I work with DesignWorks and we're at the Hyatt and Imprint Group. And we all come together, and every year it's a different theme, and it's just so much fun to go. Like, I think I'm on my 5th year doing this show, and it's just so much fun, and it's a great cause, of course, but it's just our client trusts us, and so he says either one year it was, what's our theme? And then the next year it was, this is our theme. So before, we were just kind of brainstorming, and DesignWorks and Imprint at the time, and we came up with, what about the musical Wicked? And so we had the whole set was like green, and we had like Imprint had people come out and doing, like, if you know Wicked, like an Elphaba and a Glenda doing duets together. And then for us, we come in and we have, we just be able to light it up and make it look fabulous. So that's one of my favorite events. The other event my favorite event that I just did last year with the virtual reality rendering is for a corporate aviation company here in Denver. Do you want me to say the name?
It's up to you.
It's up to you.
Jefferson. And so the way that when we did the proposal, we had an idea, and it's not mine, but our director of creative services, she said, take old flight plans and make them into paper airplanes. And so for the set piece, or for the entrance of the ballroom, we had all these like paper airplanes out of old flight plans and we lit them up. And so when the attendees walked into the ballroom, that's what they could see as the first thing. And what was funny was that, so that's basically, she said, is it hilarious that what got you the gig was a paper airplane? But what we also didn't realize is that they were doing away with paper, and that all the pilots are now using iPads now. So that whole paper was going away. So we were able to repurpose that. We had like a pallet literally shipped to our Dallas office, and we had people put together paper airplanes. So
that's awesome.
Those are my two favorite events that stick out.
Do you get a chance to? I would guess you get a chance to work with some high-profile people or some musical acts.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that experience. What that looks like.
A little name dropping. Yeah. So one of my favorite, and it was at the beginning of my AV career. One of my favorite events was for an industry association, and so basically their mindset is if we hire the right speakers, the audience will follow. Okay. So they'll put a lot of money in. So it's called Collaborate, I think was the name of the conference. And so basically, it was, and again, I apologize for the name dropping, but we got to
Don't apologize. You drop names all you want.
We got to mic up Peyton Manning, Tim Gunn from Project Runway. He was really nice. I liked him a lot. The guy that was, if you saw the movie The Pursuit of Happiness, the gentleman that it was based on, he was a keynote.
Oh, wow.
But the closing was John Legend. And so this was, I think, 2013 maybe.
Okay.
And so I had to, I was stressing out because I was, trying to find the right piano.
Yeah.
Because it was almost hard to find it in Colorado. Finally, I had to get it in from L.A., but he needed a specific Yamaha piano or keyboard. And so, and I got, and I was backstage, and I got to meet everybody. They're all nice. But so that was something I remember.
That's awesome.
But, my company, not me personally, but we've, mic'd up so many people.
Yeah.
Like presidents.
But it's more, this is where I want, you're being very humble about it.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the services you provide and what you're doing, it's not just slapping a mic on on some of these people. You're, you're sourcing and you're bringing in this right piano for the talent and making sure that all those pieces work together, because that's great if he shows up, but if he doesn't have an instrument to play or that instrument isn't hooked up through the sound system,
or host.
It doesn't matter. So that's, I think, don't underplay how much you do with some of those things, and I think that's cool, and that's why it's exciting for us to be part of some of these events where, we get to see some of that stuff.
We do get to see some pretty cool stuff, don't we?
Yes.
I mean, that's a front row seat to a John Legend concert, essentially. Yeah.
Basically.
That's awesome. Did you bring a football for Peyton Manning to sign?
No, I did not. I did not. But he was definitely popular because this was the conferences here and the convention center here, and so everyone ate it up. Before it was,
It was before he retired,
yes,
2013,
yes.
So personally for you, as we kind of wrap up our conversation here, you are a very busy guy. Hospitality's tough. How are you able to balance everything on your plate?
What I learned was I needed to ask for more help. So instead of trying to take it all in, which I'm guilty a lot of the time, I'm trying to help and ask. People say, hey, do you need help? I'm going to say, yeah, actually I do. I do.
Good.
So I do ask for more help. I try to make sure that I don't want to rush something. So I'm honest and transparent with my deadlines. If I'll say, hey, I said to a client, I really want to work on a proposal for you, but your deadline is here, and for me to do what I want to do for you, I need another week. And she said, sure, fine.
Yeah.
So it's just asking, being honest, being transparent.
Yeah, and giving yourself the okay, trusting
people. And making sure that I know that, I don't want to stay in my office till 2 in the morning. I would.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, this has been a phenomenal week, Alex. Thank you so much for having us, and to Colorado Business Roundtable for shining a bright light on hospitality and us being able to dive in. I think it's been a lot of fun. Sidney, this has been an awesome conversation.
Thank you so much. And it's a fun industry. I wouldn't do anything else.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Thank you so much. You can find this podcast and more at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. It is available all year round for you. So
and can we plug where people can
where
find
can we find you?
JSAV.
You can find us at www.jsav.com.
Okay.
And awesome. For me, my social... No.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a great day.
Cheers.